Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Jefferson Highway Show. This historic highway was formed in 1915 by the Jefferson Highway Association. It runs from Winnipeg, Canada, all the way to New Orleans, Louisiana. Let's go! Welcome, everyone. We are so excited about today's episode of the Jefferson Highway Association podcast here on Big Blend Radio. Of all just been to the conference, the annual conference in McAlester, Oklahoma, and some did go on the Sociability Caravan. So Nancy and I are a little jealous of that, but I'm very excited because we have Roger Bell back on the show. He's a co-host of the show and president of the Jefferson Highway Association. We also have Billy Sumner, who is the tourism manager of the city of McAlester, Oklahoma, where the conference was at, and you can learn more at travelmcalester.com. We also have Adeline Whisenhunt on, and she was one of the organizers of the conference and is also part of the Oklahoma chapter of the Jefferson Highway Association. I think Billy is also part of that. So that's a new thing. Having a chapter for a state or a region is really exciting to see how the Jefferson Highway as a corridor is really starting to build up and have this revival. And again, you know, the Jefferson Highway was formulated back in 1915. So we're getting some years in here, and it's exciting as we look into Route 66. I talked a lot about Route 66 at the conference, but not like as a competitor, like communities uniting over these historic highways. And as we all know, Route 66 is turning 100 next year. So I just think a lot of birthday cake should be happening from now through the end of next year. What do you think, Roger? You ready for cake? We all want cake.
Sure. There's a lot going on, and we embrace all historic roads because they are a lot of them cross us. For one thing, we cross a lot of the roads, being a north-south route. We touch most of all of the east-west routes in the country, and we celebrate birthdays and dates just like we will Route 66 and its 100th anniversary next year.
Exactly. So just going back, before we get into the conference and before we get Billy and Adeline on, for new listeners, because I know there's been a lot of dust kicked up when there's a conference and people are going into towns and people are starting to hear more and more of the Jefferson Highway. And I know that I'm, personally, talking all my friends' ears off about it. Sorry, y'all. But you want to give everyone just a quick overview about this, because the conference, I think, was so important to be there. Nancy and I have felt really special and really grateful for all the work that everyone puts into it. McAlester Tourism, the city of McAlester, Adeline, Billy, Roger, and everyone at the association. I mean, this is all pretty much volunteer, the association, and then everyone coming together in the city and all the different sponsors. And just, it was amazing to see so many people come, and of all walks of life, all ages, all interests, whether you're there because you're interested in highways or road tripping or history, or you're part of the tourism part. It was really nice to see. So it was multi-generational and multi walks of life. And I have a feeling, Roger, that was part of the envisionment of this corridor that we have, this historic highway. So can you give us kind of like an overview of why it got started?
The highway got started in 1950, several reasons, but one of them was the fact that automobiles were beginning to be prolific, instead of just for the elite. They were starting to be more common, and more were happening, and people were starting to travel. So outside of going on a train somewhere, or really going back to the days of horse and buggy, now people could get in their cars and go on their own. The first thing they noticed is the roads weren't very good or weren't really equipped to handle it. And so there was no federal money at that time for road construction, and there really was limited or anything in the States. A lot of it was just communities working together to form associations of these highways, and the Jefferson Highway was one of those. And it was noted by its ability for things like agriculture, even military was considered in it. But most of it was just travel, things we take for granted today, just being able to get in your car and find a decent road. And these roads were still primitive during most of the time of the Jefferson Highway in a lot of areas, what we consider highways. They made great progress at that time compared to what they had before.
It's so exciting now to see this revitalization. When did the resurgence of the highway start? When did everybody start to, like, someone say, okay, we need to put this highway back together and bring back that travel route as a thing to do? It'd be part of America as like the Americana.
Well, as far as other highways, if we think of things like the Lincoln Highway and Route 66, I mean, they had their day and they were decaying as tourist options in America, but they started to have a renaissance. And, our group, the Jefferson Highway Association, really got kicked off by a man by the name of Mike Conlon from New Orleans, who had lived in Canada before, and he ended up in New Orleans and had always heard of the Jefferson Highway, and he started studying it and researching it, and he decided to take a RV and drive the whole route in 2000. He touched a lot of communities along the route, touched leaders all along the route, a companion that went with him. And not long after that, with that, there was some movement in some of the historical highway associations, such as Lincoln Highway and others, to just say, we're all going to meet in Lee Summit, Missouri in 2010 on a weekend. If you're interested in trying to reform a Jefferson Highway organization, and just let's just see what happens. And we have some pictures of that event, and there are people from all over the country. Some of them are passed on now, but they decided to form the group. And probably unique to us, opposed to some, is within the first year they decided to hold the first conference. And we have historic conferences with a few organizations. One of them is Lincoln Highway has an annual conference, but Route 66 really doesn't have an annual conference, or nor does a lot of the historic roads. But we've continued to do that outside of the COVID years. We've had one every year since our first one in Ames, Iowa in 2012.
Wow, this is so cool to think about. Here it comes back, and look at the conferences that have been happening. And then just to see, I think this conference, like I said, it just was so many walks of life, right? So it's really, even when the end of the conference at the banquet dinner, everybody got together with different flags representing the entire highway. And that was moving to me. And that shows unity. And that was something I think that the whole corridor is that, corridor of community, like we talked about during the conference, but it was really cool to see. And it was really cool to see people come together in so many ways. So I want to bring Billy Sumner on, again, the tourism manager of the city of McAlester, Oklahoma. Again, go to travelmcalester.com, jeffersonhighway.org. The links are in the episode notes. And go to Facebook, find Jefferson Highway Association on Facebook, and then join their group. Their group is awesome and will take you down rabbit holes. If you're looking for a reason not to go back to work for the day, go to that Facebook group. I'm just saying. But welcome back, Billy. How are you?
I am great. Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate you having me back on.
Hey, you know what? We appreciated finally really getting to your city. You've been on the show so many times, and we were thrilled to obviously meet you in person. We had met Roger in person, but it was also special to be able to spend time with him. And I think that's part of the conference was actual connecting, right? We all do so much on Zoom and text and email. How was it for you as a tourism manager to sit and see all these people come into your town to just from all over? I don't know how many states were represented, but definitely 2 countries, right? We had people from Canada, Derek and his wife. Yeah. They brought us chocolate, by the way, from Manitoba, and it is good chocolate. Anyway, thank you, Derek. But was it cool for you to be able to see people come in just over the highway in specific? I mean, these are diehard highway fans.
They are, and it was. I won't lie, leading up to the conference, it was stressful as just part of my job organizing and getting things done, and worried about how we were going to pull everything off and would everything come together the way we needed. And I know we'll talk to Adeline here shortly, and I give major credit to her for coming aboard and helping so much on taking such stress off me and some of my team within the tourism department. Rebecca Kearns, our administrative assistant, did so much work with me as well. And then just the rest of the chapter coming aboard and helping where they could. They kind of saw when I started getting a little stressed and needed that hand, and they were right there to jump in and help anywhere that they could. And it was definitely, once we able, everything was coming together and seeing everybody come through and things started up on the conference, it was amazing to see everyone having a good time. And I think my favorite things, like you said, I loved finally getting to meet you guys. You and Nancy, it was amazing to be able
And Priscilla.
And
The
Priscilla, I have a wonderful picture of Priscilla. That was great too. So just finally getting to put some faces and personal stories and conversations with all of the people that we have talked with. And again, I met a lot of the people within the Jefferson Highway last year when I attended my first conference, but getting to reconnect with them. And I think those personal connections and building those memories, which is, I think, what all of the travel and the highway and the Americana and the experience is all about. And my favorite thing, though, besides that and seeing everyone come through and have a good time, is now been hearing some of the feedback and then also seeing the ripple effect that everything has had since the conference has been here. I know not everyone has been locally here to see the cause and effect, but the community is still talking about the Jefferson Highway and the way the leaders within the city and our city council, our mayor, our city manager, people still talking about the experience and what they thought and what they felt and they were able to see and how well that it was pulled off. And then hearing people talk about it from the experiences of those that attended. We've had so many people reach back out and just talk about how much of a wonderful experience they had and thank us for the work that we did. And that's meant a tremendous amount more than I could even express, because I felt we were up against something major from when I attended the one last year. And so I think that was just probably some of the best things of getting to hear the effect. And now I'm able to talk about it everywhere we went. I just went to an awards ceremony last night and a conference on tourism with the state and was able to get up in front of a board of directors and for the Oklahoma Travel Industry Association and talk about the Jefferson Highway and talk about the conference. And there were people there from the Oklahoma Historical Society that also chimed in and talked about their effect and how they helped us with the signage that we have across the state. So it definitely is making impacts and making waves across the state right now. And being able to host the conference in McAlester, I think, is going to now have a long-standing effect here on out as we continue to move, again, even with the Route 66 100-year celebration and past that, because I know we've had a lot of people at the state level say, hey, once we're done with this, Jefferson Highway is the next one on our radar. We've got to help support this and make sure it's going to, be just as successful. So it's brought a lot of attention, and I think we're going to see a lot come from the effect of all of the people coming into Oklahoma and being a part of the conference.
Does the community of McAlester, from what we experienced, everyone was happy to have us all there, right?
Yes.
From the Choctaw Cultural Center, we want to get to them too. We got so much to talk about, but everyone seemed very friendly and hospitable and wanted everyone to have a good time. I mean, the hotel was amazing. Everyone was nice. So does the community, are they excited, the actual community itself?
They have been more than excited about it. They were really excited leading up to things, especially Old Town, that association there that they have, the Old Town Association. I loved seeing the work that they had put in and how excited they got with their signage and the stuff that they did. Just the whole community in general embraced the fact of us bringing in this conference. And I think, Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 12 or 13 states that we actually brought in?
No, it was more than that. It was around 16.
Okay, 16.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
and, I find that amazing, too, because, when you first think about the amount of states that the route touches, it's nowhere near that. But then for these people to come in from all over, the United States just to come experience this conference was tremendous. And so, again, we had a long standing reach and ripple effect that's happening, and it's wonderful to sit back and watch what's happened on it. So yeah, the community was just beyond excited, and they've been so happy with how it turned out, happy with the experience of having everyone in the community. So it was a wonderful, wonderful time to conference there in McAlester, and I'm again beyond honored to have been able to host it, and still in disbelief on how we were able to have so many wonderful people come in and experience what we have to offer and what Oklahoma, Southeast Oklahoma, Choctaw, reservation, everything. So it's been great.
And your state is amazing. I want to go to Adeline Whisenhunt again, a conference organizer and also part of the Oklahoma chapter of the Jefferson Highway Association. She did a lot of organizing, and I know that she's an organizer. She helped with when the Military Preservation, Vehicle Preservation Association did their big convoy, and Dan McCluskey was at the conference, which I thought was awesome. I loved hearing about their road trip journeys with these historic military vehicles. It was one of my favorite things of the conference because it so much, goes into planning it. It's not like, hey, put new, brakes on or tires on your car. Like these are heavy vehicles. They have to know if they can go over bridges and all of this, but they did this last year. I know those who are been listening to the show and follow the Jefferson Highway shows and the Highway Association and everything that's going on. Last year, they did the convoy for the entire month of October from Winnipeg down to New Orleans. And Adeline was very much part of that and part of she's an organizer, which we all love people like Adeline. And here's the thing. She was great on the bus. She kept us entertained and informed and taught us about all kinds of things. I mean, all kinds of things. I mean, you have a retro Walmart, okay, near Atoka somewhere that nobody else has one of those Walmarts ever. Like seriously. And then, she takes us through all this, and both her and Billy won awards, by the way, well-deserved awards, at the banquet. It was like, yay, because they put so much work in. But I want to go to you, Adeline, because there was something you talked about during the panel discussions, and it really hit me that it was so important. And you talked about the importance of people getting to understand history and communities understanding history and to understand the role of historical societies. So during the conference, some of us were definitely into the history, some are roadies, everybody's coming from a different walk of life. How was it for you to watch people while you put all this together? But I know you could see like people are starting to physically, spiritually, emotionally connect with the history of McAlester, of the places we went to, like Stringtown. It was an incredible example of just a resilient community, right? How was that for you? And then going to like the Choctaw Cultural Center and seeing these diverse aspects of history come to life for people on this conference and in this just being able to even get all that extra information that sometimes you don't get if you just do it on your own. How was that for you?
So I don't have any kids. I'm also 31, so I'm nowhere near having kids that are graduating high school and stuff like that. But I feel like it's how parents, and Billy may be able to relate to this because he has had kids graduate high school. But I believe it's very much like that feeling of parents watching their kid walk across the stage at high school graduation of kind of like, okay, we're getting us there. And okay, I think we're good.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of, it was kind of a rapid back and forth of doing the logistics of that current moment or place we were in. Billy and I were like, okay, for the first couple of days, pretty much the moment everyone arrived in McAlester, we were fully in charge for the entire itinerary. And then kind of with a couple other events and with a lot of Friday, that was a lot of stuff that Roger had predominantly organized and stuff. And so there was some rotation in us being like fully the active hosts in any given place or moment. And then sometimes we were like, and we get to have a breather now and just enjoy. And kind of finding, especially in the stuff that happened in the evenings, finding those moments of like, okay, everything is done that we need to actively do. Everybody's sitting down and eating and enjoying and talking. And I've got my plate of food. Who do I want to go just relax and enjoy being with at this time kind of thing? And so like getting to do the murder mystery with Cece and you, Lisa and Nancy and the people from the
She's totally
Highway
gonna kill
Cafe.
me.
Yeah.
She's gonna kill me because I gave you the wrong person, but I did tell you it was Phyllis. It was Ma. I did tell you that, but you said we can't blame our own table.
We ended up having the murder at our table. We jokingly laughed. They're like, what if she's the murder? And then never went back to that. We were completely wrong with our first guess because we totally missed what that one victim's last name was.
Boy, it's probably my
Yeah.
fault.
Oh, well, because you had the argument about the secretary, and
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't a solid enough why, but we couldn't come up with anything else.
And I have to watch
But
my language on that.
I think, one of the things here too is, our conferences, including this one, I think there's a look, this is a history conference. So it's a bunch of nerd historians coming together and just talking details of the route or something. As you can firsthand see, Lisa, that's not what it was. I mean, we are enjoying the communities. We're meeting new friends everywhere we go, whether they be from our conference registrants from all over or just the local people that we touch every day there. We have a lot of fun. I mean, on purpose, we have pushed these things. I know I have over the last few years. Pittsburgh, we had a trivia contest, and everybody was kind of like, man, I don't know how that'll go, but it was a blast. I mean, we had a heck of a time fun with it. And less in Alexandria, we had a street festival out front. And so we got to try this 1920 stuff on again. And, there was a good amount of people dressing in the 1920s there. Probably some of them hadn't done that ever or in a long time. And it was.
Beth and Alan Hilburn got some good photos of them with that car. That is, the vintage car.
Yeah, I ran into
so many
her over
people.
the weekend, and they're going to frame that picture and put it on their wall of their restaurant.
I know. I'm going to email her. I'm going to say, I need that for the guide that we're doing, Roger, what was the Sociability Caravan like? I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that word right, but sociability, yeah.
Yeah.
That caravan, because this is pre-conference, right? So everyone.
Yeah, Adeline was a part of it. She can tell you from her experiences, her first really.
I was part of attending it. I didn't do much to help plan it.
Yeah, but that's
But,
what
yeah.
I'm saying is you can comment on
Yeah.
what you saw. But we again, I mean, there's a ton of work in all these things. Just like we just heard from that, people don't realize how much work we do as volunteers. Or
huge.
each community has a volunteer base that we touch that has to do something. Whether it might be getting stuff ready for a sign dedication, or we had the mayor of Pryor take us through on I've had some escorts before, but I've never had the mayor of a community take us around as an escort.
Hey, wait, we had police escorts with our big buses in Little Stringtown.
But we had police escorts on our caravan in McAlester. So, but anyway, one of the things that's so great about it is we touch people that, our folks enjoy moments of it, I think. But, we touched so many different communities over that 2 days and different facets of people from, one of the first events or certainly any food event at the Hot Rod Hangout in Galena, Kansas. They served us a great deal to kick it off. We got to touch museums along our route, ribbon cuttings in Veneta. One day we might have set the world record for us of most ribbon cuttings in one day when we had one in Veneta, followed by one in Pryor, followed one in Shoto in the afternoon. Each one of these communities were excited to see us. I mean, when we pulled into Veneta, they were ready for us. When we pulled into Pryor, they were standing in the corner waving at us. This is a great acknowledgement of us. It creates the same thing that the Jefferson Highway Sociability Runs did back in the teens. It's a promotional effort, but it kind of bonds these communities together.
Right.
We're all a part of this route and a part of this community, and that's part of it. We really, that thing about it, is I told people along the way on the caravan. I made a point every time I was with some kind of chamber or museum or something when I was talking. I made a point that the amount of people on our caravan these weren't Oklahomans, so these weren't Kansans. So as we went to Kansas, part of it, they were from all over the country. We had people from Winnipeg, Kentucky, Ohio, Connecticut, California, all on the caravan. this in Texas, and it's just Louisiana. I mean, we just and also we've all became. Some of us were already friends, but if we weren't friends by the time the 2 days were over with, we were all friends and all enjoyed it. And it's not sometimes it's not a relaxing experience because we are on the road doing things and trying to get things in, but it worked out well, and
Yeah.
a little
I
bit of
think
rain issues at times, but it wasn't bad.
I think the whole thing, everybody did connect and in different ways and from different places. And I thought that was really cool. And then there were people that I really wanted to meet, like Terry Wood. It's like, I swear, like we met people. And did we look at the name tags? I think we just all started talking about stuff half the time and didn't even know. I know there were people I specifically wanted to meet, and I probably did, but I didn't look at the name tag. I was too busy actually engaging, with the phone away, So there was some amazing things about that. And I think the Sociability Caravan is so cool. And you guys had a passport, right? That people could get stamped as you guys went through, right? That's a cool, fun
Yeah,
thing.
and for the third year in a row, that was hugely popular. We could not. Everybody wanted their stamp for their program, and I do work pretty hard on our program. I mean, not a small document. It lists a lot of things, and it's full color, and part of it is
It
that
looks good.
passport.
See, this is
And
this is fun. We all want this kind of experience. Deep down, it's fun. And Adeline, going without having to deal with anything, you're not organizing. What was it like on the caravan for you? Especially even knowing some of those areas.
That was my first caravan. I didn't get to do it before Alexandria last year. It would have been handy to have name tags because there was some people that I was like, remember your face from last year, but I don't actually remember who you are. And then they'd be like, oh, I'm this person. I'm like, oh yeah. And then
There you go.
2 days later, we're in the conference and they have a name tag, and then I'm like, oh yeah. Anywho, that thing I wanted to talk to you about.
Listen, on a road trip portion of things, it ain't cool to be wearing a name tag.
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the thought. We did do name tags the first year, and nobody wore them the second day.
You're going into public places and it's a little different. It's like, listen, we still have Easy Rider in the back of our heads,
Yeah. To be fair, my husband and I had different plans that first evening than everybody else, and so we weren't doing the full first day's evening plan because we hopped up to Pittsburgh, Kansas, and was hanging out with the Jefferson Highway archivist, Sarah DeCaro.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, there was a special event she was going to that she invited us to tag along to. But
I'm glad you brought her up because I think this is something also really cool is that what she's doing in archiving the Jefferson Highway, like that's a geek out station. If you're really interested in it, like what she is doing in archiving everything and, all the old guides for us doing the new guide, the digital guide. I'm like, boy, like I feel kind of threatened, not threatened, but like, oh my gosh, you want to play homage, but then we're in this age and you want to look. And then I've seen some because people have posted them on the group. And then I'm like, okay, we're in this age. Don't, it's that balance because you want the integrity you want to have. And I think just to see how it's progressed over the years and to see anything that has been documented is archived, it is so important because as this highway grows and to hear her talk, she was one of the speakers at the conference, it gives us legitimacy to the highway, which it has legitimacy, but when you have to, resurrect something, you have to bring some, hello, look at this is what happened kind of thing. And she has the archives. And that is huge to really down the road when maybe this gets funded as a national highway kind of thing. That's important. Wouldn't you say, Roger? Those kind of archives are like invaluable to have. And I didn't realize they existed like that in a vault that like we can go down the rabbit hole for real and never come out.
I wasn't involved in setting up the archives. It was before my time on Jefferson Highway. But we had a previous director at Pittsburgh State and I don't, I'm not even really sure how Pittsburgh State got selected exactly. But I think it's really kind of unique. You think of historic highways. I mean, if I want to go study Route 66, is there an archive that I can go to really pull that data from? That's digitizing information? No, not really. we have to promote it more, and we did. I mean, that was one of the reasons that I wanted Sarah to talk, is I want to promote it more within our group, and we did. We were successful. We had a substantial contribution, I believe, happened while at the conference from historian Lyle Henry of Jefferson Highway, a former board member who brought stuff there to give to her. I didn't even get to see what any of that was, but I know Lyle had brought
Wow.
some really good stuff. So, and we continue to promote that. It's a resource for us. I mean, an archivist shouldn't be, they're not out there promoting the things, or they are preserving things for people to use in research, pictures that otherwise would be tossed or lost or destroyed at some point. It's very important to me to continue to move that, and we have not really in recent years got an active arc, but Adeline is going to be one of those that's going to be involved in that, and among others. So it's part of something that we think is important to our future.
Well, I love the archiving and the history part of it. And I love that this conference not only talked about the history, the preservation part, and it brought tourism, travel, it brought all spheres together. And at the same time, people were traveling, and we got to experience McAlester and the community surrounding. The Sociability Caravan takes it even further, right? And then when people left, everybody hit another part of the highway. It was like everybody
That's
was
right.
like, we had a little a different change of plans on the last day of the conference because a tornado did hit down. But Billy, you want to touch on that, because I want people to know that McAlester is open and ready, right? People can still come out, and tornadoes come and go through the Midwest, and people are resilient, and there are things you can do to protect yourself. So, it's just like, there's earthquakes and wildfires in California, hurricanes in New Orleans or Louisiana or Mississippi, Florida. I don't know a place who doesn't have an issue. So it dampened our spirits for a little bit there, but how are things in McAlester now?
Now they're doing well. The community, honestly, within a day, a lot of the stuff had already been picked up and cleaned up in a lot of the areas, and the major streets reopened up again. So there was quite a bit of extensive damage there in Old Town with one of the buildings that houses one of our antique stores, Main Street Junction. So they did lose, a good portion of their roof, and some of the bricks and stuff had been thrown into the middle of the street. But there was some wonderful companies and the community come out together and completely cleaned it up and got them, restabilized, and got everything moved out of the store, so no other damage would go to the vendors and the people that were on the inside that had booths in there. So they are planning to reopen. That is something that is in the future. All the businesses that have been housed in there and have their own individual pages is talking about that it's just going to take some time, but the plans are that they will be back and running again. The rest of the area, pitched in as well. They cleaned up. They had their stores open. Downtown got hit as well. There was a building that luckily it was vacant at the time. It used to house Catholic Charities and also a barber shop. It's kind of in the area we do our Dancing Rabbit Music Festival and some of our other stuff there on the street in Choctaw. It still has a fence up around it, blocking it off for safety. They're looking at, structurally what they can do, or looking to probably tear that one down, I think is what the plan is on there. But I think just the community in general, personal homes and properties, people are still doing some cleanup, but everything has pretty much kind of turned back into knowing that we've got to move forward and things are open again. And we've had events that's happened. We had events happen still on Saturday evening.
The steampunk thing. And you said to Nancy and I right before we left, it's like they're going full steam ahead. So that's
yes,
right there.
They went full steam ahead with theirs and had 2 great days of an event down there with some wonderful pictures that I've shared on Facebook on our page as well. And they're looking to come back again, full steady and stronger next year with stuff. We had a Comic-Con that happened on Sunday, and each one of them I was impressed because they reached out to just check if the community would be upset if they thought that it was the right time and place to still have the events. So they were all very, very respectful with things that were happening. It was impressive to watch the community come together, the resiliency of bouncing back, getting things picked up, getting things cleaned up, moving ahead. And again, not to steal things from kind of the Old Town area, but just that real true grit that everyone has of coming together and pulling it back together, knowing that we are stronger when we work together and that we've got to move forward with everything. So impressive to see everybody pull together and do that. And then very touching the amount of support and messages and stuff that we have received across the community and to multiple pages that I'm a part of. And then personally, of course, to the tourism department as well, just people asking, is there anything we can do? Is everyone okay? Is there support that can be done? And this is not only just personal people, obviously a ton of people on the Jefferson Highway and people involved with the conference checking back on us and checking how things were going. But even just impressively, a lot of our events that happen, we've got events happening later on in July from a Corvette club, the Heart of Oklahoma Corvette Club. And they even reached out and just said, hey, we haven't had our event yet. We've not been really an event in the community that we feel we're a part of the community and we're hurting with you guys. And if we can do something, let us know. And just multiple people doing that. And again, just showing their love, their support. And it was wonderful to see all of that come through, and the pouring and outreach of support that everyone gave McAlester was tremendous. And from the bottom of my heart, I can't thank everyone enough for that.
One of the things that obviously affected us Saturday is I had to make the decision to suspend all our activities that day with all that was going on, because there was obviously a cleanup effort going on, and Billy and Adeline, I know, was involved in some cleanup efforts and different things in the community, but we had to suspend going out to Old Town and then seeing the Tobuscue Courthouse. But really, really something that we haven't touched on yet is the effort that McAlester did to do the Jefferson Highway crosswalk in Old Town that we touched on the way on the caravan, but we really didn't get to show it off to our conference attendees in any type of event or to dedicate the signs that we were expecting to do. But Billy might kind of touch on all the efforts you had to do and let people know when they're coming into McAlester now to make sure they look for this crosswalk.
Yeah. One of the things that, before I kind of touch on everything that went into it, if you follow along with the Jefferson Highway discussion group, it was amazing. And I didn't even think about it until after the post was made and shared. But when the Sociability Caravan came through, I met them there in Old Town with the police officers. We regrouped and then we escorted them down to downtown, where we went to the downtown 312 and had everybody be able to register and sign in and get all of the packet information, and we could direct them for the evening activities across the street at Joe's Yardbird. So the Sociability Caravan did get to see the wonderful pavement mural, as we were kind of calling it, and that's how they kind of described it. But we took a picture there in Old Town right in front of the Main Street Junction building. And it was the last picture of the group we did before we all loaded back up in and left. You can even see some of the wonderful JH signs that all of the businesses in Old Town had up in their windows. And it was right there was that last picture. And then that building, of course, was hit on Saturday. And seeing the picture of the destruction of the building, you can still see the JH sign in the bottom corner, and just thinking we were all piled right there with that other picture. And that was a little emotional hit to know that, again, just the change of how from one day to another things can happen. And so it was great for everybody to come through. I was glad that they could see that for the Sociability Caravan. And yes, we had a lot of wonderful activities that Mike Cathy, one of our other board members for the chapter, had set up in Old Town. And just as a little sneak peek, I don't have any information on it, but Adeline and I have been crazy enough to think, hey, we're done with this conference now. We didn't get to do everything we wanted to do. What if we just did like a Oklahoma type conference for a couple of days and do some stuff? So we might be tossing around that idea. So, well, and you'd be more than welcome to, so that we could still do those activities we had planned and also still dedicate those signs and be able to, just talk about and, more of the history and the things that we wanted to touch on that is important for our communities. We may toss that around sometime, maybe in early spring or even late fall. Who knows here? I mean, we we want to do something on it and be able to still do that impact and be able to let people come back into the community and see the great things that we still had in store for them. But that sidewalk or the pavement mural was a long process that was done through our community, through a Thriving Community grant that we had received through the city. And Jamie Clifton was one of our city employees in her department that really community development that really put that together, along with our grant writer, Michael Allen. I give them major credit for what they did. They worked with the Thriving Communities program. They worked with a few other programs to make it all happen. I know there was another, I'm forgetting their name, that had a big play into it as well that helped with the design. But they put it all together. They had to work with ODOT. There was a lot of back and forth on things. People have asked why it's a kind of a dark red brick color. Well, we wish we could have done Jefferson Highway colors, but ODOT has specific things with how colors associate with things in Oklahoma. So that was the color that we were kind of given, and it was like the only choice we had. But at the same time, we are so thankful that ODOT worked with us to be able to do it, because it's the first of its kind in Oklahoma to really have something like that. And I would love to see, of course, tons more that may develop later on in other communities. And there's still a little more work that goes into it that we want to do some extra paintings. The intersection there in Old Town actually has, JHs on each of the four corners of the intersection, new painted crosswalks that go across it. It's just visually wonderful thing. Got some wonderful drone shots that have been done as well too, that we posted on the city page and on the McAlester Tourism that highlights it. So it was a wonderful project that they did. I give them major credit for it. Again, Jamie, her department, and Michael Allen with our grant writing to work on that. And we were so thankful to have it done actually just in time for the conference. So we appreciate the hard work that they put into it. And it's wonderful to show off to everyone that comes through.
I think it's great all these signs going in too, murals and signs, and there's so many murals on the highway. I think part of what we're doing with the Jefferson Highway Travel Guide is we're really into putting maps together. So if you're into murals, you can follow a mural map on the highway, that kind of thing. McAlester will definitely be on that. And so Durant was really good on that. But I wanted to go to Roger on this with these signs, because there's highway signs like markers, and then you have historic markers, right? And Roger, I think that's what really gives this all real significance and credibility for travelers, is when they see not only a highway sign like that is like commitment from the communities, the highway people, transportation people, but that you are on this highway. And when you travel it, I remember the first time, we've been on the highway, but we just didn't know about it until we met Roger, and Arlene got us on board from Natchitoches, Louisiana. When you see those signs, you suddenly feel like, ooh, you're part of something cool, man. And it is really cool. But then there's these historic markers that give you some history of where you are as well. And Roger, can you talk about the importance of that? I think going to these sign dedications and for communities to come around that, what is the process for that to happen? Because that was part of the Sociability Caravan, and then also the conference, right? Are these historic markers?
We kept our sign makers pretty busy. Last in May, we were at a high rate there. As we were really doing this, we were touching the communities. They were excited about the conference. They were excited about the caravan coming through, and they wanted to do something. And this program has been going on now, I want to say about 5 years now, 4 years maybe. And it's done by our board member, Lori Miller in Leon, Iowa, who we gave our prestigious Glenn Smith Legacy Award to, not only for this project, but other things he's done. But he's kind of in charge of this, and every one of these signs he's had some involvement in. And we're now well over 100 signs that have been produced, for the caravan itself. We had 3 or 4 signs, and then we dedicated a bus tour. We did the one that we had in Atoka, and we obviously we had things in McAlester that we had, that their signage is up, and it's great to see this excitement. These people excited to put it up on their businesses, their communities, and it kind of makes you feel familiar as you're going along the route to see these signs as they continue to grow. Just since the conference, we've got other efforts now in other communities already in the pipeline. And there's a Touch State community in Baxter Springs, Kansas, and we're going to work with them on signage. So on the caravan. So it's evolving, and we have an official signage program for any community that has an interest in joining us in it. Yes, we have the route signage. It's if you don't have state signage like we do in Oklahoma or in Iowa, that we can have your community route signage, and we also have these historical markers. And there's information on our website on it, but it's growing, and it is exciting to see this.
I think what, this conference really gave everybody a full perspective that it's all in, man. And, I know people that are like, ooh, I want in on this. I want to do the highway because I want to be the first person on the block, which you're not.
Well, you were, Lisa, you were there when when we had our lunch on our bus tour, and the Lieutenant Governor of Oklahoma.
Yes. And he likes you. You bug him, apparently. You call him all the time and tell him to get signs going, don't you?
Well, we've been involved. I've known Lieutenant Governor's been this. He's been a champion of tourism in our state, and
I loved what he said. I want to just say this. Nancy and I just were like, thank you. You said everything we've been wanting to say to every community about tourism. Yeah. He gets it.
And we've been involved with him since Billy was part of that. We went to the state capitol. I would say 2019, I think. And we got the Jefferson Highway bill signed and pushed the signage, and we have things going. I mean, and this conference has spurred a few other things. I've now got some information from state tourism and they were at our conference, and that was exciting. And I think we made some good contacts to continue. And that's what we do. It just kind of grows little by little. And that's the way we continue to see growth. I'm excited about a lot of communities all over the route right now. I mean, we got things going on in Minnesota right now. Got some things going on there. It's exciting to see it. The key thing is we need people's help to continue to support and lead us. It's a long route, and we need help. We added another board member at the conference, and Mark from Minnesota, and we have, I think, the only state we don't have a board member in right now is Kansas, and we're looking for that. So
wow,
and we have one in Manitoba, as Derek. So
I got someone from Kansas that I would nominate, but.
Well, the key thing is they have to take the roles. So my guess is it might be the same person.
I'll keep my mouth shut. But she's a very sweet lady who loves history, and she killed people though at the murder mystery dinner.
Yeah, well, she's a big supporter. We love her to death. I got in the last 24 hours, we've had some contact for a new person in their business in Kansas that wants to be involved with us. It just keeps building here and there, and it's amazing how it does.
It's exciting. It is. To me, I was like a kid in a candy store, just in the stories, just even and going out and exploring the area. I love that the conference has so many components to it where, okay, here's our learning day. We're still going to have fun. We're going to kill people at night. Murder mystery dinner there. And Cece got to sing, and we got to experience Cece's, like she really knows the history, and man, she does that so well. That was exceptional. I mean, it was just so much fun. But to be able to explore the region, that really got people to understand how to look at the highway. One lady I met, she part of, oh my gosh, and I'm going to get it wrong, but one of the places we went and had an incredible mural, and the name of the town just went out of my head, and I had it.
Caddo.
Caddo, thank you.
Or Stringtown.
Oh, it's Caddo. Stringtown is still amazing. What they're doing as a community to come together for these historic buildings is incredible. But Caddo, she was telling me, and I'm like, this is incredible stuff, man. This is like gold if you love graveyards and history like that, for all of us that are like that. She told me this insane story of a graveyard in Caddo where okay, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know about that.
This guy's wife killed herself. This is sad. He was off on a big hunting trip, didn't know his wife and he built a mausoleum, and she was buried in glass, and he would go and brush her hair every day. That's some crazy stuff, Roger. What's going on?
It's still there, but yeah,
Wow.
there's story. Every community's got a story. Now, I tell that whenever I speak, and we touched communities. Every one of these communities had a story somewhere. I mean, that we did. We tried to tell the story limited we could, and when we were in these communities.
So I don't know if Billy likes that being so close to home, these graveyard stories. But Billy, you did say True Grit, and I thought you said True Grit just to make sure I remembered, right?
There was a little plug in there, so
yeah, I heard
always
that.
got to be promoting.
Okay, go. Tell everybody about True Grit, because I think we need to do a movie map of the highway.
Well,
right?
McAlester, in the book, True Grit was mentioned there multiple times. It took place in Indian Territory and was some of the major points when Maddie and LaBeouf and them crossed over hunting for the outlaw that killed her father. And so that's where McAlester store is mentioned. They mentioned J.J. McAlester, which is McAllister's founder as well. And they have lunch at his place. They mention the International Order of the Rainbow for Girls. So there's a lot of ties to McAlester in the book. So, with John Wayne, with with Rooster Cogburn, they've been figures that we've had at our Wild West days when that was going on in Old Town. And so it's been something that we are now part of the True Grit Trail, which is a trail that runs through Arkansas and Oklahoma. So we are on the Oklahoma portion. And just like the Jefferson Highway, McAlester plays a pivotal point in the Oklahoma portion of that because of the ties that we have in the book. We were in the movie, the original one with John Wayne for just a little piece, but we were left out of the new one. So unfortunately, that was something that they didn't mention McAlester in the newest version on there, but we're doing a lot to promote that, and ties with everything from the Butterfield Trail to, again, Jefferson Highway, True Grit Trail. There's just a lot of things that intersect, like Roger was saying, with Jefferson Highway. There's a lot of things that tie and touch our route, and McAllister's embracing all of that with our history and our heritage.
I love it. I think there's so much to know about. Also, the other thing is looking at what comes now, what comes next, right? There's so much going on in the conference itself, and you're going around seeing and exploring and experiencing everything. But at the same time, like, what's next? How do we go from here? Roger, and I've got more to say about the conference before we all go, but what happens from here? Because it seems like Jefferson Highway has a bunch of routes, trails connecting. It's like a giant crossroad connection because it's going through the middle of the country. It's the heartland to me, the Jefferson Highway. So what's next?
Is your question referring to what we do as an organization, or what?
Oh, next for the conference. How do you build on top of this?
Well,
I think that was a huge success. I'm not competing.
As we announced our conference, we have determined our 20th conference. It's going to be in Joplin, Missouri, and it will probably break away from some of our normal things that we always do. I always like to, once you do things for a few years, it's great, it looks great, but we want to do some things a little different. This year, we are going to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Route 66 at the Crossroads of America Conference in the third weekend of September of 2026. So it'll be a little bit further off for us than normal. But this will be a very unique, and I expect to be a highly attended conference with a lot of different folks, because not only are we doing a caravan for ourselves, the Route 66 Association of Missouri will also do their caravan, which will probably be coming from Springfield into Joplin. And we will meet at some point in time together and shake hands and celebrate together with the conference activities over the next few days. We are excited to work with Joplin, Missouri, who bid on this conference and was in attendance at our conference this year. And I've already talked to Kirsten, who you probably met. She's the assistant there, and one of her comments to me was, Roger, I enjoyed the conference so much. I met not only did I just enjoy the conference, I met new friends. I mean, and that's a lot of it here. We people that come to our conferences, we see a few of these, but we don't. Most of them, once they come back,
Mm.
and they want to come back. And we had some this year that had to cancel because of we had an RV breakdown that they had. I was a lady from Florida that were on our way almost within maybe 200 or 300 miles and had to cancel because of all the things. But she'd been trying to get to us for 2 or 3 years. But once the people come to our conference, we usually see them back. Because they enjoy seeing these different communities, they enjoy the camaraderie, and that's going to be the same. We're going to meet a lot of new folks in this Route 66 group, where it will probably have some elements that will be different, but I think they're going to be only better. And just because of the amount of things that we're going to get, with this, we hope and we plan to gain, more attention to us with all the attention focused on Route 66. We're going to be, it's going to be quite something. Now, it's going to take a lot of work, and we have a good group already starting to meet online, along with the Route 66 Association of Missouri. And we have been talking already with the Route 66 Association of Kansas, for example. And, we just, it's going to be great. And we are not really ready to announce any specific things yet, but we're starting the process of working through that. And I expect pretty soon you'll start seeing our logo for this conference and as a general overview so we can get it out to put people on calendars on Route 66, because 2026 is also an important event. Haven't heard as much as I expected of it, but it's going to be the 250th anniversary of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And this was also a 250 type event with two historic roads of America crossing. And in the 1920s, Joplin promoted itself as the Crossroads of America. We have a logo and letterhead and everything showing that they were promoting the Pine to Palm Jefferson Highway and the Route 60, the newly done Route 66. We're excited about it, and more to come. And I'm sure on future podcasts, we'll be talking about it more.
Yeah, and I think this is going to spur more chapters too, like what you have in Oklahoma as things develop. I think.
When I was excited, we had some really good folks. We had some people that had not been to our conferences before this year, specifically from Texas. And we already have, because of that, we already are starting to see the possibility of a Texas chapter. So we're excited about
cool.
that.
I like it. And I think there's a Minnesota one in the works too. And I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there for, I know who's listening, and I'm just saying, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Billy, when you look at McAlester and the conference, I think I just want, as we look towards the future, I think one of the things that was so fantastic is that you include the indigenous history of your area, not just McAlester, in what was going on for the conference, in the itinerary. And I think that is something really huge, that as things progress, to always include that, that history.
For sure. And that was actually one of the things that I loved about the conference being in Oklahoma this year, and kind of the idea that the chapter had originally going into it all was Roger took the lead on doing the Sociability Caravan, as he always does. And that brought people in to touch all of the northern section of Oklahoma and coming in through the route on the north half. Once it reached McAlester, we had, of course, the conference there. And then our goal was, let's take them down south. Let's continue on, so that basically at the conference, you experience everything within Oklahoma along the route, and you touch something where you're able to see what the communities are like, and you're able to experience the stories. Even if we can't tell them all, you can learn something about each of the communities in there, so that you're intrigued to go back and learn a little bit more or come back again and revisit some of those areas. For our area in southeast Oklahoma, once you hit McAlester and on south, we're a part of the Choctaw Nation, and they were a wonderful partner and supporter for us on there. I reached out to them, and they happily was a sponsor for the conference and helped us with the bus tour on helping us get into not only Reba's Place and helping with sponsorship where we could pay for the dinner there, but also being able to pay for our admittance into the Choctaw Cultural Center, which I will plug for a second on there. Last night, we actually were at the Oklahoma Conference for Tourism and the Redbud Awards last night, and the Cultural Center, which this is proof to anyone who is at the conference. We experienced it, we know it, but they won a wonderful award through the State Tourism Department. They received a merit award at the Redbuds for an outstanding attraction for Oklahoma. So very well deserved for them. It was wonderful. To get to talk to them while they were there. I was at a table with all of Choctaw Nation for most of the day, and we talked about the Jefferson Highway. We talked about the conference. We talked about the experience that everyone and what their feedback was of the Cultural Center. And you could see them, kind of brighten up and how proud they were. One of the directors of the Cultural Center was there, and just talking to her about it and everything that we experienced. And again, how thankful we were to partner with them. They were really excited about what we were able to do, the amount of people we brought in, and just how we showcased and we honored the cultural heritage that they play within our area too. So yes, Choctaw Nation plays a major part in everything McAlester does, and they're such a wonderful supporter of all of our area. It covers 10 and a half counties in southeast Oklahoma, and we couldn't do a lot of what we do without their support. And even, you guys talked about the lieutenant governor being there in Atoka, and again, always a big fan of Matt Pinnell. He is an amazing lieutenant governor, such a champion over the last 6 years for tourism and everything that he has pushed for and continues to push for. He is such a driving force of our industry, and I wish we could have him for longer than the next 2 years. And who knows, we keep trying to push him. Maybe you'll think about the governor position, and I would be great to have him in that role just so that we could keep someone on the tourism side and a fan of tourism. But he spoke there in Atoka. He spoke last night at the Redbud Awards. He actually always gives out the awards at the ceremony. And he talked about, again, tourism and the impact. And we talked about Jefferson Highway stuff as well. And so it was just wonderful to have his support. And he talks about how nothing in Oklahoma could be done without the support of the tribes and the indigenous nations. And so they, not just the Choctaws, but all of the tribes in Oklahoma does a wonderful job of pushing and promoting our areas. But for me, because I am within the Choctaw Nation, they are a big part of what I do. And so, yeah, it was wonderful to make them part of the conference. And that was one of my goals, just for the fact of so many people coming in don't have tribes as part of their communities or part of their states. And so I wanted to showcase that partnership that you experience here in Oklahoma. And I think we did a very good job of being able to do that.
I think so, for sure. And the thing, what I love it, we talk about history on the show all the time and rabbit holes in history. And I know Roger and Adeline understand that with me for sure. But I think what was so great about the conference is it is a past, present, future, right? The conference really embodies that and makes you want to be a steward of the highway. I don't know if there's such a thing as stewards of the highway, but
that's my goal. I mean, that's the goal that I talked to our board about is, the past is important. We want to highlight it in all of our conferences. We touch on it a lot, but we're also looking at what we're doing today, the exciting things that are going on, and we're always looking ahead. And our speakers were geared to that this year and did an excellent job, I think, of trying to get people to look at the future and how communities working together are really the source of that happening.
I love that. I want to go to Adeline on this because I know Adeline loves history. And by the way, Adeline's husband is an incredible poet. He has the longest title to a poem that
he's also a good IT. He's also a good IT man. So.
Thank you. I bow down.
He's award-winning for his poetry, and apparently, thanks to the conference, also his IT work.
Yeah, no, thank you. Please tell him a thank you from me again. I want to say, because I know on the history side it's so important to you, and sometimes it's so hard to get people involved in history, and I think the Jefferson Highway is a way to get people involved in history, whether they know it or not, right? And the conference did such a good job of that. You're going to downtowns. And by the way, everybody, hello. We had some good times on this wonderful excursion of this conference. So I want you to know that we drank beer in the morning at 10 a.m. I didn't get my coffee that morning because I was up in crazy hours. But when we went to a Lost Street Brewing Company, which happened to have just won the World Cup Award for one of their beers.
Yep.
I'm like, I
In
don't care.
Durant, Oklahoma. Yep.
Yep, Durant, Oklahoma. I'm drinking that beer. I wasn't the only one. I watched.
There were several people that decided, you know what? I'm not going to do a walking tour. I'm going to sit here the entire stop in Durant and drink a whole stein, and then I'll go back to the bus.
And that's what we did. And we played with dogs, and there was a cat too. So yes, that's how it rolled on that one day. But
Dog is my friend.
Isn't that dog? No, mine, my friend. It's only
Dog
mine.
is everyone's friend.
It's mine. No, that dog is so awesome. And we did see the cat. It was a Maine Coon cat there. But I do have an interview that we're going to close with Grace from Lost Street Brewing Company and Joe's Yardbird, which was the welcome reception for the conference. What a story. And even thinking about, we're talking about true grit. He talks about how, grapes of wrath stems from McAlester, Oklahoma. So stay tuned for the end of this conversation so you can hear those two interviews that we just did on site real quick so you could get a taste of what the conference was like. It was fun. Joe's Yardbird, good food, good atmosphere, good music. Music is always important, right?
If you didn't stay at Joe's until closing, you may have missed Bill Johnson pull out a banjo and join the jazz band. And then after a little while, you also had Joe and his sister Jess also join in with their instruments. And so we had quite a cool little jam session right at the end for those that stayed until closing. It was great.
I have some clips of that I'll share. So don't worry, I did capture some of that. So
I had to go back and get to work, but really that I would have joined in the jam session. I would have stepped in.
So one thing I wanted to throw out there on when you're talking about history stuff, and I want to apologize to Roger and Adeline right now because they may kill me for this, especially Adeline. But typically, I'm not a big history fan on things. Like, it's one of my weaker points of things. And especially being in tourism, you would think, how can that be? But growing up, my mom was a genealogist, so she loved doing family history and research. So I had so much history and stuff shoved down my throat so much growing up that I've tried to steer away from it. But that's the point of, like, the things we talk about the Jefferson Highway, how it can spark interest in people that they don't normally find. And even though I'm typically not a history fan, I love the stuff that the Jefferson Highway brings out in history. And going to the signs, Roger talked about the dedication we did there in Atoka. We can't forget we did a wonderful sign dedication also in Stringtown. And then even though we didn't get to do them yet, and I say yet because we'll do something like we talked about to showcase. McAlester has 6 signs that will get put up that are historic markers that Adeline actually wrote on there. So I'm anxious to get them up and let people read the history that she was able to help present and bring forth to educate people on 6 different sites in McAlester that are historic markers now that will be put up. So those are all, again, those stories. And you also talked about the state signage, and I think Roger would also say on this, it's kind of our first leg of state signage and goal on it. We've got the signs at marking. We know that we eventually, as more funding or more opportunities come about, possibly with state or partnerships, that eventually we'll have directional signage to be able to let people know, turn here. This is the exact way you want to move around. But right now it's just to identify and let people know you're on the right way. Or what is this sign? Oh, it's Jefferson Highway. Let me go research what that is. And communities are popping up more. We were able in McAlester to put up a dozen more within our city limits that weren't put up through ODOT. So we'll see more and more of that continue. And again, I think those signage are going to spark a lot of interest, not only the state signage officially marking the route, but those historic markers will go up along and continue to go up along communities to celebrate, more stories as they develop and more communities start embracing what their story is. And it's people like Adeline and the historical societies that are going to bring forth those wonderful partnerships to tell those stories. Because we've talked about on previous podcasts, and we could continue on for hours talking about the stories that Adeline has uncovered about the McAlester routes and different things within McAlester in general. Just one to throw out there, having the first paved section of the Jefferson Highway in Oklahoma right here in McAlester. And that will be one of those markers. So it's tremendous to see how even someone like me, who's not always the first to turn to history, the highway can bring out such a love and a passion for the stories that make you connect to each of these communities.
He said it perfect. It's perfect. He said it perfectly. It's because when you travel and you get the story, it is different than high school textbook stuff, right? The high school textbook stuff, I'm not against teaching and textbook, but it's experiencing. And that's why we have field trips in schools, you know, and hopefully those will continue on. But Adeline, for you, you've got to that connection of people. Did you see people get the history part while you were doing the bus tours and talking to everyone? Did you see the penny drop on history?
So I had a lot of people just come up and say, thank you, you've done a great job throughout pretty much every single day. So several people would come up to me multiple times throughout the entire conference. And then I had a few people after the bus tour was done compliment us on like the bus tour itself was done really well and all of that kind of stuff. And that was really great to hear. Sitting at the front to be able to use the mic makes it kind of hard to see how many people are truly engaging with the historical tidbits that you're sharing while you're on the bus, but everybody seemed to have a really good response. Didn't stick with everybody during the cultural center. The Pittsburgh County Genealogical and Historical Society has teamed up with the cultural center on a exhibit that will be opening next month and will be going through April 2026 on natural resources in the Choctaw Nation. And we we loaned about 30 items for their coal part of that exhibit. And so while we were at the cultural center and everybody else was getting their tour, we got a special sneak peek of the archives and their renovation of their exhibit space to turn it into this exhibit. And we were able to get Sarah DeCaro to go with us. And so she got a special sneak peek. And I think that was one of the, that was an unplanned thing. As everybody was getting started to go have the stickball thing, we ran into one of our connections there at the cultural center. And it just kind of was just...
You did what we call a detour.
Yeah, it was just like a sudden detour. And then I was like, hey, this is Sarah, our archivist out of Pittsburgh State. Can she join us? And I think that was something that was unexpected and made it a well-rounded, very special thing for not just me and Cullen, but for Sarah as well. And so I think that was a very key part that really made the historian in me happy.
That's cool. No, but see, that's the thing. It's all these connections, right?
Yeah.
And Sarah wouldn't maybe have ever had that contact if it wasn't for being at the highway, at the conference. So very cool. Well, everyone, we're excited about next year. Roger, y'all rock, right? You know that. And can we just say, I got to give a shout out to Michelle and Mary too, Roger. I got to give a shout out to them for everything they do too.
So there's a lot of unsung hero people that do, all kind of things, and we wish we could thank any of them. And this was one of the best sponsored conferences, maybe the best sponsor we've ever had. We had some great sponsors, and Adeline was involved in getting sponsors or letting them know about us. I wish I could thank everyone. I wish I could have talked to more people there, but it was a great conference. Especially thank these two for all the work they did, and it's a lot of work, a lot of effort, and we appreciate them so much.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you so much to the Jefferson Highway Association, McAlester Tourism. Adeline, thank you so much, Adeline, for being back on the show. And Billy, thank you for doing all what you guys did and for being part of the show again. Everyone, you can go to jeffersonhighway.org, also travelmcalester.com. Those links are in the episode notes. Thank you, Billy. It was cool to come to McAlester, and we'll be back. We will.
Good, I hope so.
Yes.
And we'll be back to see that exhibit at the Choctaw Cultural Center, Adeline. Thank you all. Everyone, take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone, stay tuned, though. Listeners, stay tuned. I have to say that. We've got the other 2 interviews coming up from on-site at the conference, so enjoy. Thank you. Hey everyone, this is Lisa with Big Blend Radio, and we are here at the Jefferson Highway Conference in McAlester, Oklahoma, and we are standing outside of the Yardbird. Of course, my mind goes immediately to the band. Joe?
Yeah.
Is that why it's called the Yardbird?
No, it's not. I was actually working at a 4-star kitchen in Missouri, and there was a sous chef. I was in college, and he knew I was going back to the dorms, and I didn't have any food. And he said, "Hey, man, I'll fix you whatever you want in this kitchen." And he was a guy from Louisiana. He was an older guy. And I said, "I don't know, maybe I'll take a chicken quesadilla." He said, "Man, you don't want no damn Yardbird." And I'd never heard that phrase in my life. And in my mind, I was able to click. I was like, "Oh, Yardbird is a chicken. Okay." He's like, "Look where you're at. This is a 4-star kitchen. You don't want no Yardbird." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." But then it never left me. And like I cook chicken, and I cook all the other things too, but like chicken particularly. And so that's what the Yardbird, it just never left my mind. Yeah.
How long have you had the place?
We started very humbly, me and my sister.
Yeah.
And then I decided I was going to sell my 2 Rust Bucket 1980s motorcycles that I got.
Okay, so it ties in with the Jefferson Highway for sure right?
Yeah. And so like I sold both of my motorcycles for like $5,000 and started my own restaurant 3 months before the pandemic. And I have no idea how we're still here. I'm so blessed with this community that has helped us and has been here for us. And then the travelers coming up and down the highway have just gravitated towards this place. Like, I guess Google's been pretty kind as far as reviews and things like that. But like,
you have a big bar though. It's like one of the badass bars.
But that's the thing about it is that's all original. This place was built in 1896. Like, Oklahoma became a state in 1907, but this place was built because this entire area used to be old coal mining areas. So like there are actually pictures from Ellis Island and people that were immigrating way back in the day, black and white pictures, that it says things like Krebs IT and Indian Territory before statehood, to where they were coming, Italian immigrants, Irish immigrants coming here to dig coal. That's their town next door is Krebs, Oklahoma, and it's called Little Italy, and they have a massive Italian heritage. They have some of the best Italians in this entire state. And so the guy who built this building was named McAdams. McAdams was an Irishman that came here back in the day, and he built this place in 1896. And with all the Irish immigrants and with all the Italian immigrants all working the mines, I can imagine at the end of the week them coming and spending their check and having a drink to blow off steam at the end of the day. Like, those are the old original wood floors in there.
Oh man.
And so when you think about it, think about the card games, think about maybe a knife fight, who knows?
Oh yeah.
And
cool.
the thing about it is this place actually is on the historic registry of haunted buildings. And since I bought it, and I didn't have any kind of placebo effect thing, I was in here by myself cleaning the place before I ever opened it, and I resurfaced the bar. And then I went outside to smoke a cigarette, came back in, and there was a dime on the bar. And I was like, I know for a fact that wasn't here.
Yeah.
And then the local lore says that is one of the things that happens. And then I looked it up, and sure enough, a shot back in the day.
Oh.
A dime.
Oh my gosh, can we go back?
Right? That would be lovely.
That would be cool. But that's a trip, man. So all that kind of history.
All that kind of history right here. And, like I say, this building, this town is older than the state itself. And so when it truly was the Wild West, you have this just amazing pit stop now to where you can drive through and have a glimpse and a taste of history that is not too far removed from what it was.
It's so cool. It's so 1896, and you spoke at the welcome ceremony here for the Jefferson Highway.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Steinbeck. And I'm going, we know his history from traveling through California and Hollister, Monterey, all of that. So, and Salinas, I think. Yeah, Salinas.
Yeah.
So there's some history there too.
Yeah. Well, one of, if not my favorite Steinbeck novel, and my favorite American novel, is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I think it's truly just a masterpiece. But another one of his works that is massively popular and also a masterpiece is The Grapes of Wrath, that talks about the Dust Bowl and the Great Migration from the Okies all the way to California, where there's still a huge connection between California and Oklahoma. And one of the things about that book particularly, which is an icon of not just Oklahoma literature, but American literature, is the fact that great American novel starts right here in McAlester, Oklahoma.
For me, It blows my mind because I've actually been to Steinbeck's grandparents' place in Hollister, California.
Yeah.
And so it's in the museum that it's his grandparents, and he used to hang out there all the time. You go around the corner in Hollister, downtown, and there's the East of Eden house where they filmed the movie.
That's so cool.
Is that crazy?
Yeah, it was James Dean, right?
You were talking here. I'm like going, oh, like, all right, connection. No?
For sure. And the thing is the protagonist of, I guess I would say protagonist of The Grapes of Wrath is a character named Tom Joad.
Yeah.
And the whole novel starts, this beautiful tragedy starts in McAlester, Oklahoma, and he gets released. And I like to think that after he got released from the prison here in McAlester, Oklahoma, he came here and had a drink and then met up with his family. And then they traveled and made that journey all the way to California.
And then, I think about that and then Bruce Springsteen and Tom Morello.
Bruce Springsteen released an entire album. I think it was called The Ballad of Tom.
Go look up the live concert between the two of them. Tom Morello just like nails it in there. I'd sidestep into that, and I'm going to have that for the rest of my mind.
That's the beautiful thing about this area is everything is a string to something else. And when you tap into history is a very kind mistress, I would say. Like, so you can be interested in one thing, but you'll find connections all over this world. And all you got to do is follow the highway.
I agree. So do you have a website for people?
The best way to find us is Joe's Yardbird on Facebook.
Okay. Everyone will link that in the episode notes. Thank you. It was good food. What a good spot, man. Ugh. Do you have live music here, right?
Yeah, we do.
All right. That's important. Hey, everyone. So we are at Lost Street Brewing Company, and we've got Grace here. And this is exciting because we're here in the morning, and I got to have beer legally. But it's a world award winning, right?
Yeah, so we just announced about a week ago at the World Beer Cup, which is like the Olympics of beer, that we have made the world's best Scottish ale. That's name is Stony Kirk. So right now our tap room's decked out in gold, and we're so pumped about that. It's really a once in a lifetime type thing. It takes years to get to that level, and we're just so happy about it.
Well, you should be. It's good. It's really good. And the other cool thing is that you have dogs.
Yes, so we have our welcoming committee, a golden retriever named Ranger, a little Maine Coon rescue cat named Jax. They live here. They're here all the time. Our customers know them more than they know us. They come in for cuddles and beer, and it's great.
Oh, this is awesome. So where did your name come from?
We actually spent about 2 years trying to find a building that worked for us down in the historical district of Durant. It happened that we found an old warehouse on Lost Street, hidden in plain sight. So we took the name Lost Street and ran with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This is such an awesome destination.
Thank you guys for stopping
Great
in.
shopping, right?
Yes.
And so you have a lot of different events, it looks like.
We have tons and tons of events all the time. Some of our weekly events are trivia and bingo. We have a Lectures on Lost Street series where we have some professors or just community people that know a whole lot about one topic. They'll come in and give a little presentation. Everybody can have a little sip and learn something, as well as we do community fundraisers all the time and banquets and sometimes even weddings.
And I do need to say that if you do not drink beer, you also have sodas.
We are completely all-inclusive. We're kid-friendly. We're pet-friendly, which you don't find typically in a place where you can drink. Yeah. Since we manufacture craft beer, that's our baby. So everybody's welcome here, all ages, all the time. So we've got the craft sodas on tap as well with the beer, and then we also serve local wines.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Very cool, but we have to come back.
Yeah, when you come back, get a root beer float.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here on the Big Blend Radio Jefferson Highway Show. The show airs every fourth Thursday, and we encourage you to go to jeffersonhighway.org to learn more about the Jefferson Highway Association or even become a member. You can also dig into the history of the highway and share travel notes with friends at the Jefferson Highway Association Facebook group. Follow our shows at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels!